Do we need to start the Zoom or? Okay. Fine. Ya Rab. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala. Barakallah fikum, jazakumullah khair all for coming. And today we have the third and the last part of the journey with my soulmate. And today's topic is happy and blessed family. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us to do the first part, finding my soulmate, second part, becoming righteous parent, and today inshallah we will be covering happy and blessed family life. I want to rephrase it or say the title into happy marriage, happy life. Now they say happy wife, happy life. I would say happy marriage, happy life. Okay, like makes sense. Okay, yes, please. You want to take this? Okay.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakumullah khair for being here. Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah, we thank our Shaykh and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for putting this program together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of you.
Ameen.
Just a quick housekeeping thing. Please do scan the QR code next to you. And I need you to do it twice. So the first time is at the start to check in. And then at the end, please scan again and to do the review. And it's just 4 questions in the review. So please do that for us. It will really help us, really improve our program. So,
Allah yazakum khair. Barakallah fikum. Yeah, no worries. You already have happy life, inshallah. Okay. Well, this is not meant for those people struggling in having a happy life. It's actually a reminder for all of us, and starting from myself, inshallah. Okay, so let's start. Let's get started. And we usually start with number 1, but in this time I would like to start with number 0. And the reason I'm calling this 0 is because this is the most crucial element. This is the most important thing, which is good characters, good manners. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, إذا جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. Or دينه وأمانته فزوجوه. That if a person comes to you with good religious practice, as well as with good characters and manners, asking for your daughter's hand in marriage, then you should not reject them. Unless, of course, there are other factors that are genuine, like, for example, there's no fit and whatnot, which we can discuss. We already discussed actually last time. But that should be at least like having the religious practice plus having the akhlaq, the good characters and manners, should be good enough to expect that this person, inshallah, will have a good life in that new marriage. Now, this hadith is very important to remember. This hadith, and I'm listing this in Arabic and in English, خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهلي. The best among you are those who treat their wives the best, and I am the best of you in treating my wife or my spouse. Now, the hadith is so simple, but really it has a lot of depth in its meaning. In what we should understand here, I mean, someone could say, why did he sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that the best among you is the one who treat their wives the best? Why was it to wife? Why wasn't it, for example, is the one who treat others the best, right? It could have been like that, right? So what is it that really goes on the spouse? And wallahu alam, it's because a person can always pretend to be with good characters and manners. I can stand in front of you now for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, and I can hold myself from anything that may look bad. I can pretend to be the best, most funny person, the highest quality. But then after that, I'll be just who I am, right? So a person who is talking to others is usually not very much into showing the real self. But when the person lives with another person 24/7 at home, then that's where everything, get disclosed. That's when everything get exposed, And that's where Rasul ﷺ is saying that when good characters and manners are deeply rooted in someone's self, then that would show up to the family, to the wife, to the spouse, more than it may show anywhere else, right? So if someone is truly good to their spouse, then that person will be always good to any other, right? But if someone is good to people, that does not necessarily mean that the person would have the same characters and manners at home. It's actually to differentiate between characters and manners that are being pretended versus those that are deeply rooted in someone's self. So that's a very important, very deep meaning in this hadith. If you are ever wondering why it's always about how you treat your wife, it's because the wife stays with the husband 24/7. You probably may ask a question: what is the most frequent issues that imams face within their communities? And I can tell you without hesitation, it's family, it's marriage issues. It's the most common issue type or problem types that we have, unfortunately, in our communities. And that actually is a reflection that many families are not happy. There are some issues. Sometimes it comes to akhlaq, sometimes it comes to amana, sometimes it comes to fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes it comes to other factors like not having the compatibility, not having the fit and whatnot. So hopefully what we will be doing today is actually going through some of the most important and top qualities that would enable qualities and actions and reasons that would enable the couple to have a happy marriage and happy life, inshallah, therefore. Okay, any question, any suggestion, any participation? I want this to be as active as possible, and especially that, alhamdulillah, I think we have enough time to cover here, and every one of these is going to be of a huge significance. So I want to make sure that every slide that we cover will get its time, enough time, and quality time, inshallah. So any question, any suggestion, any comment, inshallah. Okay. Feel free to stop me at any time, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so this was number 0. Let's start with number 1. So number 1 is faith and taqwa, God conscientiousness. A person may ask, Sheikh, how come this should be the first one? And I can tell you that that's not true. A person may have or may show as God-fearing person, but their akhlaq, their characters and manners do not get translated into such, or as such. In other words, fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it is truly done, then the person will surely have good characters and manners. But in many cases, unfortunately, God-fearing becomes translated more into having more prayers, having more sadaqah, having more siyam. But many people miss the connection between God-fearing and having best quality of characters and manners. And in fact, our elders, our pious predecessors, our pious scholars in the past never differentiated between religious practice and good characters and manners. They always say that good characters and manners are just a component within the religious practice, and they cannot be detached. You cannot say this person is religious, yet he does not have akhlaq. Because not having akhlaq in the first place actually will violate the religious practice that we're talking about. Okay, so what do we have here? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has actually told us all, or taught us always about taqwa and having fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the word taqwa in Arabic means to protect yourself. So ittaqa means to protect someone's self from something. So for example, ittaqullah, protect yourself from the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ittaqin nar, protect yourself from the fire. Right? So that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah, and this has been repeatedly said and mentioned in the Quran. That's why in Salatul Jum'ah, the very first ayat that we say, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun, Ya ayyuhan nasu ittaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida wa khalaqa minha zawjaha وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا. Those three ayat have the word ittaqullah 4 times, and it is sunnah to say that in your khutbah. So this was like a practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you would see, subhanAllah, that the one of the most important thing in our akhlaq, in our daily life, is to have that taqwa, which is protect yourself from anything that would bring the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or from anything that will displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this means that you will never be unjust to your spouse. This means that you will treat your spouse in the best possible way, so that you do not cause any insult, any oppression, any mistreatment, etc., etc. And at the same time, having taqwa, that actually you feel the responsibility of you as part of this family. So the woman would know that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked her to do at the house, and the same thing with the man. And fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, part of that should be translated as, I know my role, I understand my role, I understand my responsibility, and therefore I will not be compromising on any of them. Okay. This ayah is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims. Okay. Any question? Yes. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
So I know that this talk is focused on spouses, but in regards to this hadith that you were mentioning about the one being best to his family, could you define the family unit in Islam and how far that extends?
Right. Okay, so the hadith in Arabic is ahlihi. Ahlihi is usually used to talk about wives, right? But when it comes to family, which we call it in Arabic a'ila, or it may be translated as, like when we say kith and kin, with ar-rahim. Ar-rahim means any person that we have a relationship through marriage, or through lineage. Yes, lineage and marriage. So for example, my dad and my mom are from my family. My grandfather and my grandmothers are from family. My aunt, my cousin, all of these are families. Now, the ulama were asked, what is the boundary at which you will be sinning if you do not ask about them and care about them, right? And this is a very important question. They say, based on a hadith at which Rasulullah defined his family, he went 4 generations up, meaning that he talked about his father, his grandfather, and his grandfather. And any descendants of them, that defines the boundary of your rahim. So for example, if I have a second, do we call it second class cousin? Or second cousin. So that's not a direct cousin, right? Yeah. So second cousin qualify. It goes to the third grandfather. So you're talking about 4 generations. So the third grandfather and all of these, their families, their descendants, I'm sorry. Does that answer your question? Okay, so if you ask, to what extent is my silat al-rahim? That's how the ulama have defined it. And the dalil, the evidence of this is when he ﷺ defined his family. He said, Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim. Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim. 4. Okay? Okay? So next one. Now, Islamic brotherhood between the couple on the path to Jannah. This in my mind is a very missing point in that we see between people these days. And let me try to clarify this. Usually, oftentimes, when you find a man who is married for several years and a woman, and even if they were practicing Muslim, what happens is that the man would look forward to have good friends of his gender, right? The same applies to women. So for example, a man would like to create the best of his friends at the masjid, of the men that come to the masjid, right? Similarly, the woman will do the same. She will have a good friends of her. They will be getting together to recite Quran, maybe learning about Sunnah, and so on and so forth. Their activities of Qiyam al-Layl, usually men will do it together and the women will do it together. But it's very missing, even in very practicing families, that the man and his spouse, or the woman and her husband, will be working together as if they are like they have this ukhuwa fillah, or Islamic brotherhood or sisterhood. In other words, if I am willing, if I'm capable of doing or working with some of my beloved Muslim brothers at the masjid to memorize Quran, why cannot I do the same with my wife? Why can't, if we are having like Qiyam night at the masjid for men, why can't I do this Qiyam night with my wife? So engaging at home with things that really strengthen the Islamic relationship between the wife and the husband is more important and should have higher priority than doing that with the same gender at the masjid. And that's why, subhanAllah, Rasulullah had a very, very strong tie with Aisha radiallahu anha. And before Aisha was Khadija. In fact, if you just read through the seerah of Rasulullah as how he and Khadija radiallahu anha were doing their best in the da'wah and in between themselves as like family, you would be so amazed, and you would say, how come in today's time the man isolate himself with his male friends, and the woman will do the same on her own side as well. And frankly speaking, I think everyone would appreciate this. When a man and a woman get married, usually what really combines them together, the bond that combines them together at the very early time, meaning in the very first maybe several months, perhaps up to a year, is more of a sexual relationship. It's not really the love for the sake of Allah. It's not. It's not. Let's be very clear about this. Most likely, at the beginning of the marriage, what really makes both parties like each other is more of the sexual desire. And that sexual desire, maybe it starts very high and then it declines, it shrinks. At that time, when it shrinks, we have to develop another relationship that keeps the ties between the wife and the husband. If we don't do this, then most likely when this sexual desire fades out, any problem that happens between the wife and the husband will be strong enough to collapse that relationship, to disconnect them together. Why? Because there isn't really anything that really make them, strong or willing to go through the test and go through the difficulties in aligning together, and find that, okay, I'm just compromising because I need to get because something else is really attracting me. So in other words, the relationship at the very beginning should really start from you putting some ties together in terms of, I want you to be the reason for me to go to Jannah, and vice versa. When that happens, when a man finds that his wife has actually improved his Islamic life in the first year, and vice versa, the woman finds the same thing, then even if they lose that sexual desire that they started with, at a later time, if la samahallah, some conflict started to appear, some dispute, some lack of interest or whatnot, at least there's that really good relationship that has been established, where a man will see that my life has changed into a much better way from the time that I got married. You see the point? And that's actually a very important point where that relationship between wife and husband should never be thought about as just we are sharing responsibility at home, we have to pay for our expenses, we have to share the responsibility of growing our children, and it becomes more of like transactional type of relationship. There should, if you are asked this question, who is the person that you love the most for the sake of Allah? If the answer was not your wife or your spouse, then you are not really doing the best thing at your family. You're not really having the right happy life or happy family. Really ask yourself this question all the time. Who is the person that I love the most for the sake of Allah? That must be your spouse. Must be. If it is not, then there's a problem. And you can work on it. You can always improve on it, because that's how you can establish those, some initiatives, think about it from even like just how you do it at the masjid. Like how do you do programs that brings the unity among Muslims? Do the same within your smaller scope at your home. Any question, any comment, any addition? Yes, sister. Right. I agree. The sister is saying that it is really hard at the very first few years to build that relationship. Yeah. Right. So the action is the primary reason that establishes this relationship or Islamic brotherhood and sisterhood between between the wife and the husband in the family. And that is true, actually. And those actions should be mutual. Like the wife should be doing things that really she can tell and feel that her relationship with the husband has improved her spiritual state and has improved her relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day over day. And the same thing applies to the man. And if that doesn't happen, then there's a huge problem in that marriage. What we see, and most of the time, is that, okay, just because of the culture, the man is going to work, the woman may work herself or may choose to stay at home, and then they have certain expectations. You do this and I do that, and it then becomes more of someone dealing with their opponent. Why didn't you do this? See how much I'm doing for the house. You're not sharing the responsibility, and the same thing goes from the other side. And subhanAllah, it's just because what we see in marriages these days is nothing but a translation of what people see in the media, what people see in their in all those the movie stars and whatnot, and how they act as if they have like their own nicest stories, love stories, but then how most of these will end up broken very badly. So the type of marriage that movies, movies not only here, even in Arab and Muslim places, the way that they are actually imagining marriage relationship is really the opposite of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to have. Okay, so let's next go to the next one, inshallah. Prayer and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, okay, so you can think about this in two ways. Prayer on your own side, meaning that you are always asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq and barakah at your home. Of course, this is very important, and I have another slide about it. But what I'm trying to say here is more like, when you are at home and you're doing some even religious activities, share that with your spouse. So I give you this. Let's say that your house is far from the masjid, and you choose to come to the masjid at Fajr time and Isha time. Maybe those are like the easiest times for you to come to the masjid. Probably Maghrib is difficult for you, especially when you are fasting and you need to really do it at home. If a man stays at his house during a prayer time, should the man pray by himself, or should he call his family to pray as a group? Can you, by the show of hand, do you do it alone? If you do it alone, just raise your hand. Okay, so the sunnah is actually to do it in congregation. Call people to prayer, make adhan if you are far from the masjid. It is sunnah to do adhan, and do iqama, and then pray. That is a sunnah. If you are close to the masjid, you don't need to do adhan, but at least do iqama. And when you do it, pray together. Pray like a jama'ah, like a congregation. Because that actually always gives this implicit message that we are not only sharing the responsibilities and roles in this house, but we are sharing our direction to the Qibla. We're sharing our religion, our religious practice. We're sharing our hope and prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our trust in Allah, our hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that actually always gives another perspective to the relationship that you have with your spouse. So in addition, actually praying in congregation has more reward than praying by yourself. By the way, some of the salihin, or some of the righteous people that I have seen, they actually wake their spouses to do Qiyam al-Layl together. Do we do this? Actually, many people, when I ask them, they say, I don't pray Qiyam al-Layl in the first place, let alone my, calling my spouse and asking them to pray with me. And I, at the same time, I did see in my life some people, some elders, who have told me that not a single prayer that they have missed at the masjid except that they have prayed with some family member at their homes, whether it is the spouse or the children. And that actually was a practice even in the time of Rasulullah ﷺ, that there was a hadith about a Sahabi who lived too far from the masjid. So he said he invited Rasulullah ﷺ to come and find him a spot at his house to convert it into musalla. And he ﷺ did. He came to his house, and immediately he ﷺ prayed 2 rak'ah there. And that place became the musalla within his house, so that he can make the prayer in congregation with his family. By the way, I found a lot of sweetness in this in my family. That there is no time that any of my children will pray alone at home. No time. And if they do, I ask them to repeat. I tell them, listen, you're missing the reward of congregation. Either you repeat your salah multiple times until you get the equal reward, or come and do jama'ah together. It was narrated, although maybe the authenticity may not be, may have some question, that Umar ibn Khattab one time has missed his congregational prayer at the masjid, so he prayed it 27 times. He repeated the salah 27 times in order to get the same reward of the masjid. And yet, even after that, he's not getting it all. Why? Because of course, praying at the masjid, you will have the reward of every step you make. You have a reward of getting closer to the imam. You have a reward of staying in the masjid before and after salah. But at least if you cannot make it at the masjid, make it at home in congregation with your family. Any question? Any addition? Any comment? Okay. No, I'm sorry. This is the wrong one. Okay. Now, mutual love and compassion. Well, I think this is more I think this is very trivial to everyone, that there need to be some love and compassion. But the reason I'm saying it here, or mentioning it here as a top priority, is that love and compassion should come from a religious perspective as well. Like you truly say, I love this spouse for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is in addition to the love that comes because of nice memories that you had together, because of some sexual desires, because of whatever the other secular love, type of loves that people have. Is it permissible to have love because of some memories and or maybe sexual desires? Of course, it is halal. This is the natural human being. But the one that is missing is really having an additional love because of the practice of the religion. In other words, if I see that my spouse has been always my reminder to stay away from haram, if I see that my wife is the one who is causing the barakah in my home, how could that be less of a love than any other reason that people may have with each other? Like, why would you love any person except for seeing all the benefit and all the things that you like in that person? And what could be better than finding that your spouse is the reason of all the barakah and khair that you have at the house? When you see that your spouse is the one who is helping the children to grow in a way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, when the wife finds that her husband is always responsible of taking his children to the masjid, educating them about Islamic things, reminding them, giving them quality time. How could a woman be more happy than finding her husband doing this? And that's what makes her truly love the husband from a different perspective than just the natural love that happens between humans. Similarly, when a man sees that his wife is the one who is so honest, that regardless of where he goes, regardless of what challenges he has to face, that his wife is the biggest supporter. She is the one who would protect his honor. She would be the one who would be protecting his wealth. She would be the one who would care about the children. She would be the one who may even try to work and to provide for the family at the time when there is a need. And all that stuff, I mean, that actually what brings this love, special love that we talk about it from an Islamic perspective. Any question? Any addition? You have a question? Okay. Okay, so move to the next one, inshallah. Okay, shared responsibility in raising righteous children. I think this is also a myth in many Muslim families, which is, what is my responsibility as a father and what is my responsibility as a mother in raising the kids Islamically? The sad news is that most of the time this responsibility becomes solely the responsibility of the woman, of the mother. And unfortunately, men usually give excuses that we work and it's very hard, difficult life, and we just cannot afford, paying that much of attention to our children. Well, while the part of this is true, it does not take away from you the responsibility as a father towards your children. And the least of that responsibility is to be the role model. The least. And when the children see their father spending his night watching a TV, or surfing the web, or smoking, or making lies, or being disrespectful, or just spending their time in playing cards, playing chess, and all that stuff. That is where, subhanAllah, the man is not only not taking their share of the responsibility, but actually is participating in destroying the future of the kids, the Islamic future of the kids. And very sad that these days usually the fathers, it's more on the father's side than the mother's side, that the fathers have limited their responsibilities to providing money and making sure that those kids will get married later, and also before that they will get into the best schools. That's highest education. That's where unfortunately most of the families that we see around us, and I'm talking about Muslim families, that they have limited their responsibility to that. I mean, very, very, very few families where you see the father and the mother are actually agreeing on a plan on how they can divide the responsibilities or share the responsibilities for them to grow the children in a very Islamic environment. Like, for example, when the mother, for example, tries to teach her children Quran, is the father participating in that? Is the father bringing some rewards for the children? Is the father helping in getting them to go to some maybe trainers or great teachers? Or even the father is doing that at home, or the father is learning how some of the Islamic manners and whatnot, and try to practice it at home so that their children will pick it up from them. So those things are actually, sharing responsibility of raising or upbringing the kids in an Islamic way is very missing these days. Anyone would like to share on this? This is even if you have an idea or thought, please tell me. This hadith, كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Every one of you is a shepherd, and each of you is responsible for his flock. This is not only the father, this is not only the mother, it's every single person. Okay. Move to the next one. We did talk about characters and manners, right? Characters and manners is very wide. Are very wide to be described, and subhanallah, many of us limit that into more of, okay, just have a nicer smile, or perhaps certain description, or certain limited bullets under characters and manners. But it's very wide to the extent that it actually covers every aspect of your life. Like, for example, be respectful to your wife during the time of night. I see, for example, like some of the common problems that I see from families is that a woman would be annoyed at her husband that he turns on a TV volume very high at the time when she sleeps. Similarly, the man would say, at the time when I want to take rest, my wife starts vacuuming the floor, and see how annoying this would be. And that actually just reflects the lack of respect that each one has for the other party. It's, subhanAllah, it's enough to remember how Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أن تحب لأخيك ما تحب لنفسك, that you love for your brother or sister, of course, what you love for your own self. And unless we have that, we cannot get into respect and kindness, because you really would like to be dealt with with respect and kindness, and you just need to apply the same thing with the spouse. One of the things that we need to always remember that it is very common that a person would see this in a one-way relationship. I mean, it's very easy for a person to miss the fact that it's because of his or her own attitude that the other party is not respecting. So many, I mean, most of the time when I get into marriage dispute, it's because each one is talking about the issues of the other party, but they are actually closing their eyes on their own. It's just subhanAllah. Now, I mean, if I look at you, brother, I can see your beard. I cannot see mine. I can see your mustache. I cannot see mine. So what if there's a dirt on your nose? I can see it, but you cannot see it. Same thing applies to me, right? So that's unfortunately most of the times relationship that we have, is that people only focus on the spouse's mistakes or issues or maybe deficiencies or whatever it is, and they just forget about themselves. Had they thought more about themselves, they will be very respectful to the other party, because they see how much the other party is sacrificing to live peacefully with a person who has deficiencies. And that's actually what I think I have another slide about humbleness. Like how you humble yourself, where you acknowledge that you have issues yourself. So work on your issues before you ask the other partner to work on their own. Okay, any question? Okay, so let's do this, and then maybe we can have 5 or 10 minutes of a break. Okay. So let's do this. Effective communication and consultation, shura. What I mean by consultation here is that any matter that will impact the family, it has to be a joint decision between the wife and the husband. In many societies, the man will take the leadership and will be the only one dictating what the decision should look like. Whereas, subhanAllah, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sallallahu would consult Khadija, would consult Aisha, And if you think more about it, he ﷺ would never say anything but the truth. Rasul ﷺ was protected from doing any major sin and or doing things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet he would consult his wife. And in many times he ﷺ would even listen to them on very big matters. I'll give you this example. When he ﷺ went with the Sahaba to Mecca for Umrah, and during the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah time, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, what happened? They went there and they were not able to do it. So he ﷺ asked his companions to just break their ihram. The companions could not believe that he ﷺ would do this because of a treaty. They said, we are the believers, they are the enemies, and we should be very strong and not, give up. We came here for a purpose. We should continue and not just break our ihram. He ﷺ went back to Aisha and he said, I'm sad that no one is listening. He asked them, break your ihram, and they were very confused and actually very emotional. So what did Aisha radiallahu anha say? I think it was Aisha or Salama. Probably Salama, I'm sorry. Salama was the wife who told him this. She said, why don't you go and you break your ihram first so that everyone will see you doing it and they will follow you. And he did, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he cut his hair, he shaved his hair actually, and he slaughtered the sheep. And subhanallah, when they saw him, everyone did the same. So who really gave that? It was Salama, his wife, radiallahu anha wa ardaha. But that has actually was very common in his life. That he ﷺ even would take their opinion in some like community-wide decisions. Like this one was for the whole Muslims, for the whole ummah. It was a participation of decision between him and his wife, radiallahu anha wa ardaha. And I'm talking here about Rasulullah ﷺ, and I'm talking about some religious aspects, let alone things that are in the house. Like for example, during COVID time, one of the major issues that we have found was that because men now have to work from home, so now they started to see things from their wives that they haven't seen in the past. Like for example, where the wife puts the knives, where the wife order her kitchen, where the wife does things at home, and then the man would be, no, I don't like this. Let's do it this way, or let's do it the other way. And this has brought a lot of divorces during the COVID time, because now the man and the woman are 24/7, like face to face, and the man is not tolerating and the woman is not, and they just could not really reconcile things between themselves. So when we talk about shura, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, that their affairs should be done in a joint way, in a joint decision. And communication here, effective communication, I think this, yes, it has its own, it's a loaded term in terms of management and marketing and whatnot, but what I mean here is that at home, we have to be explicit about our emotions. We have to be explicit about our feelings. In many cases, subhanAllah, the problem starts way early in their marriage time. But each one of them try to hide it. And then it accumulates. And then it grows bigger, and then all of a sudden it's like a volcano that has just erupted, right? And the problem here is that if you want to fix it at this late time, there are so many things that you need to go through, and it just doesn't help. So that effective communication really requires a person to think very wisely about how they can express themselves to the other party, to the partner, and make sure that they are respectful, and at the same time they lead with solution. So, for example, I would say, this is a real life issue that I have faced. I got a couple. They had a problem. I asked them, like they had a problem where he actually asked her to leave the house. This is very dangerous. Actually, just to take this on a side, if a person is not happy with his wife at home, he should be the one leaving. He cannot let his wife leave because, neither Islamically it's acceptable, nor actually logically and practically it's acceptable. Because, what do you want the woman to do if she leaves home? But anyway, this was a side note. Now it gets back to this scenario that I had. The problem. When I asked about like what brought you to the dispute that you had, apparently the last problem between them was that she left the butter on the dining table without returning that to the fridge. So by the time he came back, he found the butter melting. So he got so frustrated. So that type, could this create a problem that a man will divorce his wife? What happened in that case? He said the word of divorce because of this. Now people may think, "A'udhu billah, what a bad person." But after talking to them, I found out that there are not dozens, maybe there are hundreds of other issues that have happened in the past, and no one talked to each other. No one talked to the other party of what makes them angry. I asked him, "Did you ever tell your wife that you prefer that butter will go back to the fridge?" He was like, "No, this is common sense." And I asked the wife, "Did you find that this was wrong?" She said, "I am from Canada, and usually we leave it out." So it's trivial for them. And I was like, okay, so the problem was not the butter. The problem was that unfortunately they did not communicate with each other about their expectations, their feelings, their findings. And then, subhanAllah, things have accumulated to the extent that they are no more able to tolerate each another. Okay, any question? Yes. You mean they would avoid being transparent on their feelings because they don't want to disappoint the other party, right? Well, that's why we have something called wali. The male guardian of a woman, like the father, for example, is actually mandatory in making a marriage. You know why? Because usually men are very clever, and I'm saying clever, I'm not saying smart. I'm saying clever because it has some malicious intent in it. They are so clever in hiding things that women don't like and show women everything they like. And they may even be lying in certain times. So much so that if they meet with a girl, the girl would think that this is her best night with a K, and that she will be living in the most in her whatever people would have in their dreams, only to find out that this man was a'udhu billah, just pretending, right? Usually, it happens from both sides, but usually from the men more than the women. And that's, wallahu a'lam, that's part of the reason that women should have a man as a guardian. Because otherwise the woman can be easily deceived by those type of men. Now, what does that tell us? And how is that related to your question? It is very related to your question because we need to understand that a man should be very transparent from day one to show what things that might be problematic in the future and not wait until after marriage. So in other words, let's say that a man sneezes a lot, or the man has sleeping apnea, for example. Those have to be disclosed at the time of engagement, at the time when of proposal, of marriage proposal. Why? Because those type of things may cause trouble to the wife. Similarly, let's say that the wife has whatever, the issue that may impact the marriage or may impact the way that the man would look at her. She has to disclose that. There are things that are private and no one can tell. Of course, those things will remain private. But now that you are getting into a marriage relationship, you have to be very transparent from the time of proposal, let alone the honeymoon time, let alone what comes afterwards. So you're asking how should we treat these things at the time of the honeymoon? I would say if you have missed that in the past, so she did not disclose things that perhaps are going to create issues and you did not do the same, then try to be as much as possible practical and feasible and gradual in working on disclosing these things and really make them in a respectful way. I give you one example, and please don't think badly about me. A man did not like how his wife gets angry so often. So he said to her, "You are the second most beautiful woman." So she asked him, "Who is the first?" He said, "You when you are not angry." So this type of respectful way, and I'm sorry, whatever they call this type of language, but that actually increases love, and it gives you you can do the courtesy, you can say your feeling in a very positive way. On the other hand, stop. A man had a bull. You know bull? The male cow. Bull. Mm-hmm. So he had a bull, and it happened that the wife was trying to treat the bull, and the bull has hit her, and she passed away. So many people came to the condolences. Many people. So he said, "Jazakumullah khair, thank you all for coming to offer your condolences for my loss of my wife." They said, "No, we are here to buy the bull." So that, we see this side, we see that side. Yeah. So that's what we need to really understand, that subhanallah, good communication or effective communication would really improve the way that people have with in their lives. And that happens with everyone. Unfortunately, we study this for example, when you do customer service, right? When you do marketing, when you do all advertisement and whatnot, it's an art. Like, how can you deal with people so that you always get their satisfaction? Unfortunately, we don't apply this with our wives, with our spouses, Okay. Do you like to get 5 minutes, inshallah, and come back? Or do you like us to continue? Oh, yeah, I totally understand. How about you, Akhi? Do you like to continue or get some 5 minutes? Continue, sisters. Continue, 5 minutes. Hayakumullah, ahlan wa sahlan. Continue? Okay. If you really like to have, do we have anything outside? Habibi, do you see anything like refreshment or anything? Okay, no problem. Right. If anyone likes to get water, let me just. Oh, really? Okay. Type. Let me just get you this. Barakallah fikum. If you like to get it, water.
I'm fine.
Are you sure? Okay. Here are two for you. Inshallah. Yakumullah.
How do you recommend trying to find out about certain issues that people can hide in the marriage meetings?
I have mine. Jazakallah.
You mentioned like anger issues. Most people wouldn't necessarily show that. They wouldn't have a good impression in the first meetings.
They cannot.
And there's certain things that you can't find out until you spend 24/7.
Yes.
Like that.
This is deception and cheating. When a person hides something that would impact the relationship, and they wait until the marriage and the wedding takes place, this is cheating. Yeah. And actually, from the fiqh perspective, this is a reason why a woman can ask for separation, and the judge will approve it, because he managed to hide something that would impact the relationship. So she does not need to wait for him to divorce. She can just say, he deceived me, and the judge will separate them. And she will take her dowry, because he deceived her, right? And the same thing applies, actually. It's on both sides. Yeah. So diseases that are that would cause that would have an impact, like for example, if the disease can transfer between people, or a disease that changes the shape of a human, those type of things have to be said, have to be mentioned. I mean, you don't have to say it from the very first day, but it has to be said before you sign the contract, before you make the kalima, before someone says zawajtuka and qabiltu, ijab and qabul. Yes, sister.
So it can wait till the second or third meeting if there's...
Yeah, it can. As long as a person is not maliciously doing this so that they get the full interest, and then they say, okay, later I can say it, and then people will say, okay, well, hard luck. We have to just take it as is, because we've been investing in this, knowing each another, and now we say, okay, maybe it's hard to take a step back. If this is the intent, it's haram. But if the intent was, okay, let's at least focus on the main picture, and then I can disclose things. I mean, usually what I have, like for example, for my own children who are now at ages of marriage, we do this. We have the first meeting to just know each other. What are your interests? What do you like to see in a wife? Same thing. What do you like to see in a husband? Let them speak in front of each other. Let them just see everything from a high level. And then, of course, you cannot make a decision from first time, not even from second, not even from third. There need to be, really, especially these days, there need to be a very deep analysis and assessment of the marriage proposal, because people are easily hiding their issues. And with today's social media, with today's internet, many people unfortunately have done a lot of issues in their lives. So if there is an issue from either side that will impact marriage later on, it has to be disclosed before writing the contract. Yes, sister.
They only did number one in your family. They didn't go to number two. What do you do in your family? First is the meeting, it's casual. What's number two?
Oh, okay. Allah yajzak al-khair. So, there need to be multiple things to really check about, and you can make them in the order you like. But the first one should be really formal. Like, what is it that made you select our family as opposed to many others? And the same thing should be there, because you really want to know what the intent is, what he likes the most about us, and what he and then understand what they are looking for in general. Like what is it that you like to have in a wife and etc. and a husband. There need to be a good understanding of the family. Like okay, the father, the mother, the broader family. Because sometimes the family is non-practicing, or maybe non-Muslim, or maybe have issues in like some type of inherited diseases. Like let's say a person, I mean, I have seen this, subhanAllah, many times. You know the Down syndrome disease? Some families have those Down syndrome in every generation of them. A person should be willing to say this. And of course, I mean, you have the right to say, okay, I'm fine with that. I can take the risk, or you can say, no, I'm not willing to take the risk. But at least there need to be that type of, transparency. There need to be also a very detailed discussion about how they think about Islamic practices. Like, for example, what does prayer mean to you? Is it something that you just do in your heart? Is it something that you do also at the masjid? Are you someone who prays Fajr at masjid? Who are the type of people that you hang out with? Do you select your friends based on work? Is it more on the masjid? What is the time that you spend every day with? How do you spend your time? What are your interests in terms of future for your children? What do you like them to be? What do you think about sharing responsibility at home? I mean, understanding all of these concepts actually, and checking them through a scenario-based discussion. Like, for example, a person can say, here's a scenario that we see in today's time, and I would like to understand your thought about it. A scenario where, the man has certain habits that are neither haram nor wajib, neither mandatory nor unpermissible. And the same thing the woman has, but they are in conflict. So how do you resolve that conflict? So that conflict resolution, all type of those discussions that really enable you to understand the nature of the person and how they will be dealing with those type of scenarios in the future. So I think, Wallahu Alam, Sister, Barakallah Fiki, especially because of today's life as well, it is not enough to just judge on those meetings. Like I would say that for my daughter, I would love to have as many meetings as possible until both parties are 100% convinced. Well, when I say 100%, I'm exaggerating, but I mean at least have a good level of convincing, inshallah, scenario. But in addition, I must be willing to go above and beyond those meetings and ask about his friends, ask about his family, and go and meet with them. Like, tell me who your friends are, and I want to understand. I want to see what type of friends you're making. I have some friends who got their daughters married recently, and I asked them, "What do you do?" They said, "I do a very detailed interview, like job interview, to those people who are proposing marriage." And the reason for this is, he said, I always do job interviews at work. I can tell who is pretending to be knowledgeable. I can tell who has the competency. I can tell who can handle the some conflict at work. I can tell who is respectful, who can control his anger, control his words, and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I would go that way, but what I'm saying is that in today's day, in today's time, it's very important for us to check on all of these, which we are already covering. Okay, any other thing? Yes.
In this scenario that you mentioned, how do you handle dealing with someone who seems to dwell on small talk? It seems to be like an hour going by and they're just talking about, oh, we went to this country and this is the weather. It seems like the conversation isn't going anywhere. And meeting with the parents, that's what I'm talking about.
And you are what? You are the parent or you are the father?
Meeting with the parents of the potential spouse, and it seems like the meeting is just small talk. It seems to be not going anywhere. I'm saying this because I've dealt with this a lot. We visit the
Yeah. So you go to a family and then the parents are just talking about weather.
yes, the weather. We spent this much time in this place, we traveled here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's none of the important questions.
Yeah, then I think you should be very straightforward. Let's ask some interesting questions, or the questions that each one of us may think as important ones to understand before marriage, and yeah, go straight for it. And so I don't know about cultures, but frankly, I found that people who live here for like a long time, they get into the point directly. At certain other cultures, they try to sugarcoat it with so many different things. Yeah. In some of the Arab lands, Syria is one of them. When they go into marriage, they ask about the number of keys you have. Number of keys.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Number of keys. How many keys do you have? So if you have only one, then that's very low. If you have two, that's good. If you have three, that's mashallah. If you have four, oh wow! You know what number of keys is there?
Oh, I remember.
Number of keys, yeah. First key is a car. Do you have a car or not? So that's number one key. Second one is job. You have a job, so that's my second key. Third key is house. Do you own a house? Third one is resort. Fourth one, I'm sorry. So if you have 4 keys, mashallah, you are above and beyond. So, yeah. طيب. Let's go to next. Well, I think this is in addition to what we have said at the beginning, characters and manners. And I think just so that we are more deep into some specific ones, forgiveness and patience. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said in the hadith, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إن ساءه منها خلقا رضي منها آخر. That let a person not get into a state of hating his spouse or their spouse, because if they dislike one character or one thing in them, they may like others. The problem is that people usually focus on the negative ones and they don't remind themselves about the positive ones. And so much so that when they accumulate together, they reach to a point where they are no more able to just continue with the relationship and they cut it. And that's where patience should be in the place. Patience is not just to stop complaining. Patience is actually a long process of how can you treat yourself so that not only you're not complaining, but also that you feel satisfied. And that's why we have in Arabic, in Islam, we have sabr, and then we have ihtisab, and then we have rida. So sabr is where you just show patience that you are not complaining. Ihtisab is when you say, well, I would seek the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that thing that I'm enduring. And then rida is when you are satisfied that what you are facing is inshallah for the good side of you. And that's where those are the 3 levels. There's a 4th level. Anyone can tell? shukr, is that you thank Allah for that test that you're going through. Because you know that Allah will not choose for you except what is good. Now, of course, that sabr has a limit, and a person may handle things and maybe could not handle others. But for whatever the person can handle, they should show patience and they should show forgiveness. One of the common problems that I see in today's marriages is that people usually think about marriage as, or about spouse as an opponent. So every mistake that the other party does, they would like to respond. And in fact, sometimes they just want to show that they have the power to respond and that they are not someone to be taken lightly. And that type of attitude, wala'adhu is destroying families. I give you one example. One day, one of the sisters, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive her, was giving a lecture at a masjid for the sisters. She said some very concerning message. She said, I have agreed with my husband that he, when they wake up, that he does his bedside and I do my bedside. And we agreed that we have two sinks. He will clean his own and I clean my own. While there's nothing haram in this, but that actually gives you this feeling of he's my opponent or she's my opponent. I do mine, she does hers, and vice versa. And that actually always is a reason for people to get into a big trouble, because there's no forgiveness, there's no passion between them. They're not showing mercy towards each another. They're not showing gratitude for what others are doing, and consideration that perhaps the woman is doing something very difficult now with the children. She's the one who spent the whole night maybe caring about a crying or an ill or a sick child. The man has to take that into consideration, and vice versa. The man could be fired from work, and then the woman is just annoying him by saying, well, for example, the vacuum is not, the vacuum machine is not operating well, and I need another one. See, my neighbor has a better one. I want that brand, and it costs whatever. And the husband is completely, in a different world because of his layoff or whatever. So what I'm trying to say is this: forgiveness is just a show of consideration and passion about, being the right spouse to the partner. There is a statement, and I'm saying this is just so we understand cultures. There's a statement in Arab world which says, "Did you slaughter the chicken at the time of marriage, at the time of the wedding, after they do the wedding party and then they go together for the very first time that they are alone?" There is a common practice in the past where the man will bring a chicken and slaughter the chicken in front of his wife. You know why? Setting the stage. I want to show you how powerful I am. I'm a person that I don't mind. I can do it like this. We have this. Yeah. We have that type of thing, mentality. Well, I think, people may get so much surprised to hear that this exists, but actually in every society they have other type of surprising things. It's just that if you live with something for a long time, you start treating it as if it was trivial. Okay, justice and fairness. So that's also very important, and it's very related to forgiveness, that there need to be justice and fairness in the way that each one would react to the other or interact with the other. And I think this more applies to the man than the woman at certain cases, and to the woman than the man in certain other cases. I give you the example of two. In many cases that I have seen, a man who does not like his in-laws, he would actually prevent his wife from going there. And it's very common that a man would have a problem with his mother-in-law, right? I think very common. And the woman would have a problem with her mother-in-law. And the reason for this most likely is because of jealousy. Because what happens is that, and I'm pretending this is like on my case, alhamdulillah it's not, but let's say that I have my mother, she loves me so much, and now she sees me that I'm very inclined to my wife. So she feels jealous. So she would be treating my wife in a way, okay, you know what? You're not more important than me, right? And subhanAllah, this just starts the fight between them. And this goes lifetime. Similarly, on the other side. So in many situations, the man would stop his wife from interacting with her parents because of this. And the wife may say to the man, I just cannot live in a house where your mother is there. I have seen this 100 times. The wife would complain and she would say, divorce me now. Why? Because her husband has brought his sick mother, very old mother, and allocated a room for her in the house. She just cannot treat her. She just cannot deal with her. And vice versa. So that's not fairness, and that is not justice. Similarly, sometimes the woman would live with the husband for a long time, very peaceful, very nice, happy life. But then after maybe 10 years, the man does a mistake. And it's very common to hear this word, I never had peace with you. She would forget about all the past time because of something just came in the past. The man would do the same sometimes, but what I'm trying to say, justice and fairness is very important. And that's why, subhanAllah, what is the ayah here? The hadith. Rasul said, اتقوا الظلم فإن الظلم ظلمات يوم القيامة. That protect yourself from injustice, for injustice will be darkness on the day of resurrection. Any question? Are we moving well? Okay. So mutual support and cooperation. I think this actually goes above and beyond fairness and justice, where a person really needs to sacrifice on their own in order to support the other party. That actually, it does apply on the worldly life, but it also applies to the to the religious life. And I give you a very concrete example. Most of the time, we, the men, love to come to Ramadan during Taraweeh time, right? And we want to spend the entire Taraweeh in the masjid. Women would love to have the same opportunity. The problem here is that when they have children, someone has to take care of the children. Most of the time, what I see, at least in America, is that men would say to their women, you know what, you're not required to pray at the masjid. Masjid is for men. So they come to the masjid, and the woman would end up staying at home, staying with the kids, not able to pray, and she would miss that opportunity during Ramadan to improve on her spirituality. And that actually is very wrong, especially in a time and a place where we live here in America. That there need to be an understanding that yes, I as a man, I should be willing to take some turns and take care of the kids to give my wife an opportunity to go and improve and work on her spirituality. And it doesn't hurt if you, we're not talking about Salat al-Isha, we're talking about Taraweeh. Salat al-Isha, the man needs to come to the masjid. It's mandatory, especially if they live just next door. But when it comes to other prayers, like Sunan prayers or Taraweeh, some events, the man should be very willing to take care of the children and let his spouse go and participate. Any question? Yes?
Looking at the second hadith, I'm wondering if AlSalam say, help your brother whether he is an oppressor.
Yeah. So this one, the hadith is, what does it say in the beginning? Yeah. أعن أخاك ظالما أو مظلوما قيل يا رسول الله هذا إن كان المظلوم فما بال الظالم قال تردعه عن ظلمه, that you need to help your brother in whether he is oppressing or being oppressed. So they asked him, okay, if he is being oppressed, we know what it is, but how about when he is oppressing? And then he said that you stop him from oppression. So here the support and cooperation is that, many people think that, okay, if the spouse goes out of her way or out of his way in doing nonsense or doing something wrong, then I just need to cut the ties. Whereas the Rasul ﷺ said, help them. Instead of just cutting ties, help them, because you might be the one who can help them stopping those type of unjust actions, and inshallah you will be rewarded for that. And that actually what keeps the marriage relationship stronger and stronger. That when you see yourself improving on your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day over day, that's when you come to a conclusion that this marriage is the best thing I have, because it is the one that is really putting me on track with my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, humility, I did talk about it. I said there will be a slide about this, but I think in today's time, this arrogance is happening on both sides. You see that sometimes the man would be arrogant by saying, okay, divorce is in my hand, Islam gives me some superiority. Like, this is a myth, of course, because I'm the one who is providing, and I'm the man, and I'm the one who can control divorce and whatnot. Similarly, because of the feminism that we see, the feminist movement, unfortunately, they say, okay, you do your own, I do my own. We split everything into halves. And that, subhanAllah, is just against what the Rasul ﷺ has told us. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to live with everyone, let alone in our own homes. So having or showing humility to the spouse is very crucial to avoid this feeling of an opponent. You really need to protect yourself from having that feeling with your spouse, that she is my opponent or he is my opponent, by humiliating yourself and accepting that sometimes you may say, okay, well, she has been unjust to me, and I will forgive her now because I know that in the past I was unjust to her and she forgave me. So I'm not reacting in a way that I want to just prove that I am in a position where I would like to revenge. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, now gratitude is very important, especially in today's time, when after the honeymoon finishes, people get back to their normal life, and they have set of expectations from each side. And they would be like, okay, yeah, you take things for granted. Like, for example, if you come to the home and the food is not ready, you get mad. Did you forget that the fact that she has been doing your food on time all the past days, you should have thanked her for it. But people usually get it so for granted that they, okay, how come you didn't do it today? But in all the other days, he was quiet. So just like how you want to share your concern that this thing is upsetting me, there need to be also that gratitude that you show of things that the other party is doing. And same thing with women. And frankly, I think because of the personality nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to men and women, usually there is a misunderstanding. A man thinks about gratitude in actions. A woman thinks about gratitude in words. I'm not saying this is always, but this is very common. And what that means is that when a man brings, for example, some new food, fancy food, takes the woman or the family to a restaurant, treat them and whatever, they feel, or in their mindset, they think that this is the way that they are showing gratitude, but they will not say the word. Whereas in the woman's side, if the man is not saying, oh, my love, or those kind of words, and like explicitly say, thank you very much, I truly love this, I truly appreciate this. If the man is not saying that, she will not take it. And subhanAllah, the man will be frustrated, how come you're not appreciating all what I'm doing? And the woman will say, how come you're not appreciating all what I'm doing? Because everyone is expecting the appreciation to come in a certain form when the other party is thinking otherwise. Okay, so I think this hadith explains it very well. Who man la yashkur al-nas la yashkur Allah. Who does not thank people is not thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really thanking, shukr, by the way, shukr in Arabic goes in both verbal and in action. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. That work all the people of Dawood, the Prophet Dawood, in way of showing gratitude, in way of showing thanking. So in other words, when a person does things like physically, it becomes part of their shukr. But also, shukr goes on the tongue, and it has to be both ways. Any question? Okay. Now, charity and generosity, I think this is also, again, part of the characters and manners, which I labeled as 0, because many of these just belong to it. But let me just talk about generosity first. I think one of the characteristics that a woman would love the most to see in a man is generosity. And unfortunately, many men these days are very concerned about the economic life and the bad economy that we are going through, and they would like to save money as much as possible. So their concern or frugality that they show can be perceived as if it was like selfishness or not being generous, right? So being stingy. So that actually two different perspectives, right? So a man usually prefers more thinking over showing emotion, and on the other hand, usually, again, it's not always, women would go with more emotion than thinking in dealing with those kind of things. And I can give you a very, very common example that I see, that a woman would tell me, Sheikh, you can't imagine how many times My friend, my neighbor, has gone with her husband to a restaurant. And the reason he does this is because he sees her, for example, tired, or she could not have enough time to cook, and he will take them to a restaurant. And when I talk to the husband, like, what prevents you from doing this? He would say, I was laid off. I don't have income anymore. I want to keep the money for the period of time that I will be looking for a job. And unfortunately, I mean, each one of them would think about how to spend the money from two different perspectives. Like being wise and using or spending the money is not always in a common agreement between the man and the woman. Actually, in many times, the woman would say, okay, let's at least live a happy day. Why should we stop ourselves from doing things that may not cost us that much? And the man would say, no, every single penny would count in those difficult days. Economy is down, and I lost my job, and I don't know what's going to happen. And frankly, there isn't really here true or false. It has to be more of a mutual understanding. It has to be more of supporting each other, and it has to be showing that, okay, I'm generous even though my situation is very difficult. That's why Rasul has said that a 1 dirham could get you a reward more than 1,000 dirham. A 1 dirham that you spend for the sake of Allah may get you more reward than 1,000 dirham that you spend for the sake of Allah. How is that possible? If you only have 2 dirham and you spend 1 dirham, you are spending half of your wealth. But if you have millions and you only spend 1,000, it's nothing. So the reward is not only the quantity, it's actually looking at the entire circumstance. So the man could show generosity despite the very difficult time that he is going through financial-wise, but at least showing that I do care, and we have this problem now, I lost my job, yet I remembered you in this maybe cup of juice, or whatever that may not cost that much, but at least shows that he is generous even at the difficult time that he has. Okay. Any question, any comment? Okay, we're almost reaching to the end of it, so just maybe 2 or 3 more slides. Now, seeking knowledge and Islamic education is very important for anything you do. And I think one of the most important things that we need to worry about is what are the rights of the woman and what are the rights of the man. The rights of a wife and the right of a husband. And this, inshallah, we can have a different either lecture or khutbah that I talk about it, inshallah, because I think this is one of the most ignored or unknown things between Muslim families. Like, what are the rights of my wife and what are the rights of my husband? Although everything that we have said are part of the rights, right? Like, for example, you need to be generous with your wife. You need to forgive your wife. All of these are rights between wife and husband, but there are other rights. Like, for example, if someone asks, is it the right of the husband to ask his wife to cook every day? Is it the right of a wife to say to her husband, you need to sit in the house for this many hours to take care of whatever? Those things have like some Islamic rulings that require some details. Inshallah, we'll talk about them at another time. Now Silat al-Rahim, maintaining the family ties. I did allude a bit about this, that one of the things that keep the spouse very appreciative is when the other party is always of respect to her family or to their family. So, for example, if I am very good to my in-laws, my wife will be very good to my parents. If I'm very good to her brother or maybe cousin and whatnot, she will be very good to mine as well. So that's very important that we, in fact, then showing the children that type of silat al-rahim and connecting with the kith and kin. The sister has asked, what is the limit? Anyone remember? What is the limit of my rahim? What is that, sister? Good, tell us. Yeah, 3 generations above you. So 4 generations in total, right? So me, I'm generation, my father, my grandfather, and grandfather. So 3 generations above me, that makes 4 generations and all their descendants. Okay, good. Okay, mindful time management and balance. If you want to remember anything here, is that make a work-life balance in your life. If you don't have that, you will be tired and your spouse will be tired, regardless of what it is. Don't tell me that if I don't do this, then I will be fired from work. If that is the case, find another job. Live with less money, but have higher quality at life. That's it. So let me just give more time for questions, and then inshallah we can conclude. Barakallah fikum. And you can feel free to even say additional thoughts or additional comments, some practical things that you have seen. Please feel free to do so. We can spend another 10 minutes inshallah for that. Yes, sir.
I just think it's really important for everybody to, well, for the Ummah in general, we know the consequences as well. Because I know it's important that often the accountability in our relationships, but the consequences are just getting to the children.
Yeah, that's a big one. Like any time there is a dispute or a marriage issue, the real victim are the children, and unfortunately, I have seen it very repetitive that the man and the woman would come to a decision that their life is no more acceptable together, and they just apply for divorce. I asked them, do you think that this would work with your children? They say, regardless. I just cannot live this life anymore. And then either that they regret the decision, or that their children will go astray, and they will just find them at a place where they don't like to have them. One of the practical suggestions that we always give to people, that if la samahallah, you get into a situation where your relationship with your spouse is getting to a dead end, and yet you have children, don't divorce. You can try to make something similar to divorce, but keep that marriage relationship with you for the sake of your children. And what I mean by that is that it might be permissible for you to say, okay, let's agree on a temporary separation without the word divorce. Live your life with the children alone. I will go and find another place. Let's see how our life is. So that when you take the decision of divorce, you know for sure that it is it. It is it. And you just cannot go anywhere else. Now, is that recommended from a Sharia perspective? Well, Sharia says do not even go to the word of divorce until you exhaust every possible reconcile. And also, even when divorce happens, the woman has to stay with her husband in the same house. So, for example, if someone says to his wife, "You are divorced," or "I divorce you," then she has to spend the whole iddah, which is how many months? 3 different periods. until she gets out of the third period, then she leaves the house. But during that 3 months, it's a time for them to change their mind and come back together. So a person may not even like to reach to the level of saying the word of divorce. They can say, okay, how about this? Let us just try something and see how it goes. You stay where you are, and I will try to go to work at another place or go to another place, and give yourself this opportunity to see how your life goes, especially when you have children. And the reason I'm saying this is because most of the time, the children are the ones who will bring the two parties together. Because they see that, okay, yes, I don't like my partner, but for the sake of my children, I'm willing to sacrifice. Yeah. Okay, any other thing? Any question? Yes, sister.
In regards to communication, one of the tools that I think is very effective is to make at least a monthly meeting or some type of regularly scheduled meeting where both husband and wife sit together and they talk about 3 things at least that they're thankful for each other for, show gratitude, and then 3 things that they'd like each other to maybe pay a little bit more attention to or that they might be able to fix. And it shows humility from both sides that yes, I have faults and I be willing to work on them, and also it gives you a chance to give gratitude and then to check up on it again the next month to hold yourself accountable. And so that really is showing that you are invested in the marriage and you'd like to change and
Yeah.
see it grow.
I think this is a very advanced, mashallah, quality that needs to be in both sides to reach to the level where they have this consistency and meeting together and really remembering things that are positive, and then they say there's still room of improvement. The problem that I see in most of the cases, sister, is that people don't even they cannot think of this because the way that they are treating each another as an opponent, they are just waiting for the mistake to happen or to appear from the other party in order to leverage that to, reply back. And I think what you are saying, sister, if that happens from the very early marriage time, then it has a higher chance to continue. The problem is that if people just start their marriage in just a very traditional way these days, they will never get to this high quality time that they spend with each other. But I do appreciate that finding a quality time between wife and a husband is always important, very crucial, and it has to be on a pattern. So, for example, having that meeting on a monthly recurrence and spend quality time in discussing things that would really soften the heart together and show humility, show gratitude, show all the humbleness. That actually is a perfect thing to have between a wife and a husband. Perhaps it may differ between families on like how long they spend and how frequently they have to do it, but I think the idea in itself is very important. And actually, you see that this has happened between Rasul ﷺ and his wives, that he would have quality time to talk about things. In fact, he would have quality time with them to do some games. Like he ﷺ used to compete with Aisha radiallahu anha on like in running, and Aisha radiallahu anha was faster than Prophet Muhammad at the early age. But then later, he was able to to win. And then they would use their time in talking about things that really would cover their marital relationship, as opposed to just the regular routine that everyone would speak about. Jazakallah khair. Excellent, inshallah. Anything else?
In Surah Nisa, where it says, if you cannot do justice to the orphan girls upon marrying them, then marry other women of your choosing. Is it a greater reward to marry
A second wife?
No, I'm talking about the. I'm comparing orphan you had the choice?
The ulama have talked about this ayah in detail, and to the best of my memory, I don't believe that anyone has talked about that being better, except if your intention is really to help an orphan. Of course, if that is the intention, then of course, by all means. But what the ulama have said about this ayah in particular, they said that let's say a person loves or liked a woman for marriage, but the woman is orphan. Then usually in societies, if the woman does not have a support from her father, then usually the dowry is less. And people will not be very much willing to give, because this might be taken as a deficiency, or might be taken as lower class or whatever. Perhaps it doesn't happen here in America, but at least it happens a lot in other places. So the ayah says that if you like a woman who has this special status of being orphan, and because of her being orphan, you're not willing to give her the same dowry that otherwise she would get if she were not orphan, then avoid getting married to her, because this will become injustice. Even if that requires you to have more than one wife in order to compensate that that desire of this specific woman. So that's what the ayah is saying. So the ayah is neither saying that orphan is better than non-orphan, except if the intent is to help. And second, the ayah in no way is encouraging people to have a polygamy or to get married to more than one wife. The ayah is just telling you, do not practice injustice. Yes, sister, yeah, go ahead.
What is an orphan defined in the US right now?
In Sharia, I can tell you. In US, I don't. I don't know. Sharia,
I mean, like, in this community.
no, in Sharia, it's very straightforward. Anyone who lost their father before bulugh, before puberty. Anyone who lost father, not mother, father, only father, before puberty. That's what bulugh is. That's what yatim in Arabic, in Sharia means. So let's say that a woman was, say for example, 20 years old, and she has lost her father since she was 10. She's an orphan. Of course, when she is now 20 years old, we no more call her orphan, but she has the state of an orphan because the father is lost. Yeah.
Does the father have to be lost? Does he have to be passed away, or what if he just left? Does that also count as an orphan?
No, it's only when the father passes away. Yes. So the wilaya, or the guardian of the girl, would transfer through the same inheritance model in Islam. So if she lost her father, the brother can take an act, or the uncle can take an act, or and sometimes the son can take an act and become a guardian. I'm sorry? Yes. Yes, it has to be from the paternal side. Yeah. So those who get the inheritance are the ones who can be guardian. But it goes, there's an order which probably there's a bit of difference of opinion about what is the exact order. But after the father, there's the grandfather, there's the brother, there's the uncle, and there's the son. Yeah. Any other last question, inshallah? Okay. So with that, we're done. Alhamdulillah, we did those 3 workshops. I know I want to just say a few words here. that when we first planned for this, it was more planned as a seminary that can be recorded and can happen through a system that where people come on a virtual basis, and people can participate from any place in the city. We had a problem with the system that we were using. Unfortunately, we tried it very hard from the first time, second time, and then we decided, okay, it's not really working. And the system was supposed to have more of a virtual opportunity for people to attend, the ability to ask questions through the system, posting some material, and all that stuff. So since we could not really continue with that, I want to tell you that at any point in time you think you would like to ask questions, or you would like to get the material like those slides, I'll be more than happy. Just let me know. I can give you my contact, inshallah. Or you can just ask the admin here, or you can ask Brother Riza. But inshallah, just feel free to ask any question or to go through have the material, and inshallah I'll be more than happy to respond to that. The second point is that I totally understand that a series like this could have been offered in a more structured way, and perhaps we could have like a hands-on, I don't know how we call it, but like more practical workshop where we do some practices and exercises while we're doing this. It's not just lecturing, but more on like how everyone can do something on their side. And inshallah, that's the plan. We thought of starting this, getting the material together, have the first iteration, and then inshallah every time we offer a similar thing, we improve on the content, and we improve on the practices and the activities that we do during the workshop, inshallah. Last thing, I hope that inshallah this has benefited everyone, and I ask you to remember me in your dua. And I want to tell you that inna rahmatallahi qareebun min al-muhsinin. Always have hope and dua in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have hope in Allah and have dua. Most of the time, people would think that if they do what is appropriate, that they will see the results immediately. And that may not necessarily be the case. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also likes to test people. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself had very, very sad moments in his life. There was a time where he divorced. He had the time where his wife has passed away. He had times where his children passed away. He had times where he saw things in a very different from what he was expecting. He had times when he had dispute with his wife. Surah Al-Tahrim is one example. So we cannot say, or we cannot even think that he ﷺ did not do all the required things Islamically. Yet he had some challenges to go through. However, the vast majority of his life, he had the best relationship with his spouses, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in fact, if there is any successful marriage story that could ever be taught in the history of mankind, it's what happened between Prophet Muhammad and Khadija radiallahu anha. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Khadija had the most successful marriage relationship in the whole history of mankind. And many people don't know about the details, unfortunately, because Khadija radiallahu anha has passed away in the early time of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So be confident that you do what you need to do, and if anything that does not work, it's part of the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to go through to show patience, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate your ranks in goodness, inshallah. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله كل خير. Yes, can you use the barcode so inshallah give any feedback you can. جزاكم الله خير.